I want to start out by just letting you know, I know we have a lot of people on this representing lots of different areas of the United States, as well as different organizations. And I wanted to take a quick shout out to my friends over at AmSpirit Business Connections for sponsoring this webinar with Mike. And while Mike and I is someone I've known him for a while now. I've been on his podcast. He's been on my podcast. I've read just about every book of his. I probably read other people's books and thought that they were his. So it's important to note that it was actually the franchisees at AmSpirit Business Connections that really kicked off this notion of doing a program like this. And then we pulled it all together in literally like 7 to 10 days. So just some quick context for the folks on the webinar. AmSpirit is a networking organization for entrepreneurs, sales representatives, and professionals. Basically, if you need referrals, you need AmSpirit. And additionally, AmSpirit is currently looking for additional franchisees. So if you might want to consider talking to Frank Agan, who is the founder of AmSpirit, if you might be interested in creating some additional revenue for you and your family in this time of COVID-19. I'll have Frank put his email in the chat, and you can check in with him. You can also find AmSpirit Business Connections at amspirit.com. So again, thank you very much. Let's just jump right into it, Mike. Why don't you just give us a quick overview about sort of what Fix This Next, your new book, is all about, and how that aligns up with this whole COVID situation that's going on.
Yeah. So, and I got a lot of actionable solutions I want to give people on this call. But just by context, I wrote Fix This Next specifically because I realized the biggest challenge entrepreneurs have is knowing what their biggest challenge is, and pinpointing what we need to do, particularly in crisis. I started writing the book 5 years ago. No one anticipated what's going on right now. It is so extreme, but I'm proud to say that I wrote this book for this situation. Now, we don't have what I call micro crisis, where individual businesses are being affected alone, a rise of a competitor takes your clients or something. We have macro crisis, where there's economic shift that causes then all these businesses to be affected at a micro level. So the beautiful news is there's a way out, there's a way through, and we just need to know the strategy. If it's all right, Matt, I can just start digging right into it. I don't have a PowerPoint. I have these slides here.
Yeah, do me a favor real quick. Check your mic selector. I think you might be on the computer mic.
Oh, am I on the wrong mic? Okay.
You're a little tingy.
Yeah, if I'm tinny, I'm definitely on the wrong mic, and I am.
This is...
Oh, yeah, that's way better. So that's Mike on the right mic.
That's Mike on the right. Thank you for catching that. So, I just saw your note. Sorry. So what I've done is, if you didn't hear me about Fix This Next, I wrote the book to address crisis. And there is specific actionable things we can do to navigate through crisis. I want to first start off, I don't have a PowerPoint. I did set up a link I'll share with everyone.
Yep.
Called recessionresponse.com. And you can just Google recession response. No sign up or any of that stuff. All these PDFs are there for you, plus training tools. So this is the first model I want to show, and I'll hold it nicely and close to the screen so you can do a screenshot if that's your preferred method.
Yeah.
But what I want to explain is the 5 stages businesses go through in a recession. And just by context, I'm an entrepreneur for my entire adult life. Been in business for 25 years. I'm an author for small business owners now for 12 years. And I've been through 2 recessions. I found there is a common trend, and this is now our 3rd recession that I'm going through, is there is a underlying economic kind of fragility. And when there's a trigger that kicks off the collapse of the economy. So in 2001, it was the dot-com bubble and also the terrorist attacks, and then the economy collapsed. In 2008, the Great Recession was triggered by the housing collapse. Now it's COVID. And here's the pattern that businesses go through. And what we're looking to achieve in this call is to get you to this side of the pattern quickly.
Right.
The first stage is shock. That's the word shock. And how people respond is usually by freezing up. They're totally startled. And as an analogy, if you've ever been in a car accident, I hope you've not, but many people enter that moment and they go into immediate shock. There's an internal disbelief. You actually don't even feel the injuries you've experienced, sometimes for minutes or hours later. That's the shock syndrome. And the problem when it happens in business is we freeze up and businesses will start to slide down of inaction, which goes into the area of business collapse. We've already seen it. We've seen businesses folding up because they're in the inaction mode. The second stage, and I think we're right now past the shock, we're now in desperation stage and going on to evaluation. Desperation is where businesses respond with overreaction. Now, we saw it with the run on toilet paper. I mean, that's not business decisions, that's personal decisions. But at first, there's these people going for toilet paper, and there's one guy, true story, in our area here that has a garage full of toilet paper now. He was buying it everywhere he could. And at first, it's kind of a joke. And then soon you start catching on. It's like, whoa, I need to do this. And then it becomes a stampede. And the stampede is then now there's toilet paper nowhere. Well, that's what happens in the desperation stage. And there's people now with excess. The problem with this guy with all this toilet paper in his house is actually not, does he have enough toilet paper? He's got 50 years of supply. How's he going to maintain his supply? He's got to get like dehumidifiers, a guard protecting his toilet paper. So we see this desperation playing out also in business itself. Many businesses right now are going for the easy money of loans, government, loans that are potentially forgivable or not. I want to forewarn everyone, don't trust it until you actually see it in writing and is committed that that loan will be forgiven. There's a lot of parameters around it. But if you need a loan, the question that begs to ask is, why do you need the loan? Because that's the trigger cause. There's a problem in our business that needs to be resolved for us to seek that money. Well, we have to get to that root cause and fix it. A loan will definitely extend a period of time, but if you continue to run business status quo on that loan, you're going to run into the exact same problem just a few months down the road. So if you do take on a loan, really evaluate what the problem is so you can start curtailing those costs or addressing increase in margin and stuff like that. And I'll give you some strategies how to do that in a second. My goal in this call is to get us here to evaluation and deliberate action, the part of the upswing on the curve. Evaluation is where we consider the options available to us and make a choice that is in the best interest of the business. That's deliberate action. Now, one of the traps of evaluation, and we'll see what some businesses is they go into analysis paralysis. They stay here too long and actually starts this longer, slow slide. So I want to give you some highly actionable stuff. I want to give you some stuff that you can take, measurable action, see results from. And then the opportunity that's coming our way, and I don't know if this is 6 weeks from now or 4 months or a couple of years, but we will experience the surge stage. We see it of every recession historically, so this will be no different, I expect. And this is what happens. There's going to be a increasing demand, pent-up demand, because some people are deferring buying, and there's going to be decreased supply. Pent-up demand with decreased supply is a massive opportunity for any of the businesses that sustain through the crisis. Any businesses that start during the crisis and sustain often will grow the most because they made it to the other side of this. I also want you to realize, whatever your client mix is, some clients, a portion of clients, use a trigger like this as an excuse to stop doing business with you, because in the back of their mind, maybe subconsciously, they've always been considering, I don't know if I really should use this vendor. Maybe I should move on. And now they have a justification. So I don't know if it's 10% of your customers or 20%, but I know I've lost some customers. And what happens is we start to look downstream and say, how do we retain those customers? I need those customers. I wanted to introduce you to an alternative, and it's to look upstream. You may lose some customers that use it as a justification. Trying to retain them is going to require extraordinary effort and probably not possible because they were planning on leaving anyway. But also your competition, they're going to lose their, say, 10%. Now, cumulatively, your competition is a lot bigger than you, not just one competitor. I'm saying all of them collectively. So in my space, I may have 500 clients and I lose 10%. That's 50 clients. That's a punch to the gut. But upstream from me, my competitors collectively have about 50,000 clients. They lose 10%. There's 5,000 opening up. So I lose 50, but if I turn and look upstream, I now have 5,000. So I need to actually start marketing upstream. And marketing in this environment is not about being opportunistic. It's not about taking advantage of people because they're struggling and you can offer a solution that's expensive or something like that. It's really about the opportunity, and that's different than opportunistic. Opportunities, can we position an offering that satisfies their immediate need? And realize some of those customers, their immediate need now is they're actually going to delay purchase, but they are looking to vet consciously or subconsciously who the next person they're going to trust. So a marketing opportunity for many businesses is actually educational. I just did a call with photographers this afternoon, and photographers are, in the worst way, they can't do their business because they can't have physical contact or be in the same physical space. But we were talking about what's the new need for clients, and a lot of clients are or business people are now going on Zoom, just like we're doing now, and they don't have their space stage. They don't have a light illuminating their face. It's black behind them. They don't have stuff behind them that's appropriate. So photographers who do staging for photography, this is a perfect opportunity for them. It's a new need. And one way to get in front of those people and win their trust is start to offer some training and education. And you can do free videos on YouTube and so forth, but start positioning yourself as an expert. So we're going to refer to this a few times, but this is the business crisis trend that businesses go through. Our goal is to move you to evaluation and deliberate action right now so we can position you for the surge and burst.
So Mike, the first stage you had there was shock, right?
Yeah.
And I think the big question when it comes to shock is, how do we get out of shock and into that next stage? What are the triggers? Is that a mental thing? Is it a physical action? What is it?
Yeah. So what it is we put significant weight on the potential future to the point where it becomes debilitating. We start this spiral down, and actually, there's a technique called block control, which I didn't have printed out, but I'll share the strategy, how to navigate it. Shock is a result of overwhelm. Our mind literally can't compute all the things that are going on, so it shuts down to its bare survival mechanisms, breathing, keep the heart going. And that's why when people are in an accident, they literally, truly don't feel pain because the brain can't process it. There's too much going on, so it doesn't release the pain yet. But at a certain point, it'll catch up. There's a technique I call block control, and here's what it is if you're thinking about, my business is, I'm really in trouble here. I don't know what to do. I'm overwhelmed. I may lose my house over this. You're going to start feeling that overwhelm that paralyzes you. We start reducing the blocks. We say, well, what can we do in the next, and this is a long term, but what can we do in the next year to start moving forward? And notably, that is probably too much overwhelm if you're feeling shock. So then we rewind to the next month. Is there something we can do the next month? And that may be overwhelm, the week or the day. And for many people, it's what can I do this week to simply survive and get by? Or what can I do in this day? And for some of us, even the day is overwhelmed. So then we rewind to the hour block and say, what can I simply do in the next hour to make some progress forward, even if it's minuscule? And when we start compartmentalizing our considerations into smaller categories, at a certain point it becomes manageable. And so for some of us, it's simply the next minute. Just I'm laying in bed. I don't even want to get out of bed. The 1 minute, in 1 minute, I will just open my eyes. That's the first step. And then once that's accomplished, we say, what can I do in this next minute? Get my feet on the floor. And I know that sounds pretty crazy or ridiculously minute when things are going well, but when we're feeling the shock and overwhelm, it's blocking it down in small pieces.
Yeah. And so it sounds to me like what you're saying is that in this time of shock and crisis, right, that the mental game we play in business plays a much bigger role in the success of how we move to the next stage of that chart that you were talking about.
Yeah.
So, I think we surround ourselves with great people. We have masterminds or other business owners that we can talk to and we should talk to. I was just on a call this week with a good friend, Gary Wilbers, and he used that exact philosophy of talking about goal setting. He's big on goals and creating habits he talks about. And he talks about his 90-day plan and then his year-long plan, his quarterly plan, his monthly plan. And so he's doing that same thing that you're talking about and backing it all up. And I think to your point is that when we just don't know what's next, like I work with a lot of people in the vacation rental space. My good friend Derek Eaton's on here too, and he does as well. We work together with people in the vacation rental space, and they've been completely decimated, right? Yeah. So many layoffs in the industry, and then there are states that aren't allowing people to check in, so now they can't pay their mortgage. So you're right. We just have to take the smallest piece that's in front of us that we can do today.
Yeah, exactly. And don't even worry about the long-term goal. It's chunk it down, because if we keep focusing on the long-term goal, it can become overwhelming.
Yeah. Great. Now what's the next stage on that? Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to kind of roll through one more mind tool, and then we're going to get some really actionable cash stuff you can do right now. So this is called the 10-10-10 method, and I know that it kind of reflects on the screen.
So it says consideration, 10 minutes, 10 months and 10 years. Okay.
This is how it works. There's two things that cause problems. One is we look too far down the road and we freeze up. The other thing is we only consider too short of area. Like we just consider the immediate relief. And we only consider that. So we start doing sometimes desperate things like that loan. If I just get that loan, I'll be fine. And we move all toward that because we feel that momentary relief. Well, this method, the 10-10-10 method, was developed by a woman named Susie Welsh. She was married to Jack Welsh before he passed away. And what she argued is, instead of just considering the immediate element of what's going on, the 10 minutes, consider the midterm and long term. So any consideration you have right now, like some people are laying off employees, right? That's a tough decision. Should I lay off or furlough that employee? How am I going to feel in the next 10 minutes? And I may feel horrible about this. This is someone who's been loyal to me. They've been a great employee. They don't deserve it. So I feel horrible. But then we say, well, how are we going to reflect on this in 10 months? And in 10 months, we may say, you know what? In 10 months, because I let go of that employee, I was able to bring stability to my business. I was able to move the business forward. So in 10 months from today, my business is more likely to be alive. And I feel good about that. In 10 years from now, you know what? By that point, I may have hired that employee back because I did what's right for the organization. So what this strategy does is it simply gets you out of the most common reflection, which is only the immediate. Now we consider midterm and long-term. And the beautiful thing I love about this 10-10-10 method is you don't need this worksheet. You can simply just do it in your mind. So that's the strategy there.
Great.
What I thought, Matt, would be super helpful is this. Again, these are all, I know some people are asking, it's at recessionresponse.com. So you can download it, all this stuff. And again, no sign up, just download it. These are about 30 tips I have for you in how do you manage some numbers, the finances of your business. And I wanted to share a couple with you because I thought they'd be particularly impactful at the moment. First of all, when it comes to cash flow and your credit score, it is a little bit draconian, but we got to get very serious here because we don't know what's coming down the pike. If it's down between you and the business, you matter more in regards to your financial credit score. So if you have to make compromises on your financial credibility, if you will, it's the business that in most cases would be better to sacrifice in yourself. Because as we go through this, if you need to get a future loan, if you want to borrow money in any sort, your credit score is the biggest determining factor. Many entrepreneurs are doing the reverse right now. They're like, you know what, I'm going to forgo paying myself. I'm going to do everything to keep the business alive. And their credit is tanking. That is going to be crushing in the long term because their credit score, they can't PG things. So if you have to pick between the two, I would go with your personal. There's a thing called first asker advantage. Go for that now. The first people to ask something for someone to acquiesce on some kind of terms or something like that wins. The person that gets second has a 50-50 and the third guy is done. For example, on our lease of our own building, we lease space in our building. We don't own the building. We went to the landlord 6 weeks ago and we said, something big's coming down the pike. We don't know how it's going to affect our business. It hasn't yet, but we would like to ask to negotiate the terms with you so that we can mentally prepare for how we're going to proceed. And we sat down with the landlord. We were the first to ask, and they gave us new terms. Now, the beautiful thing is, I think we must do it with integrity. So we said, listen, our business isn't affected yet, and we don't know what's coming, but we need flexibility. So we're going to continue to pay the rent, but instead of our 5-year lease, we need that shortened to 1 year. Is that doable? And the landlord said, you know what, that's a win for both of us. Let's do it. Other people are going to him, and I don't know what they're having, but those conversations are a lot longer. Ours was about 5 minutes. They seem to be locked in that room for an hour or two, and I don't see smiling faces coming out. So you have a first asker advantage. Another one you can ask is your credit card company and your debit card. Ask for a lower percentage rate. Literally, call your credit card company and say, listen, COVID's affecting our business in some way, and it's painful to pay this 25% interest rate or wherever they're charging 17%. We ask that you help accommodate us here and reduce the interest rate. Credit card companies are doing that. The first to ask, though, has a better opportunity, even with the big companies. So get on the phone with them. For your business, that's some cash outflow control I was sharing. On cash inflow, one thing you can do is introduce new kind of payment terms. So as you introduce new products and services, I'll talk about that in a minute, why not introduce new payment terms? So if you don't accept credit cards, definitely accept credit cards. But you can offer 0% financing. If you simply Google, providers of 0% financing, I know PayPal has some division that does that. There's like 4 or 5 companies I found very quickly that will, you sell a project or service to your clients. They will turn that money over to you. Embedded in that is an interest rate, and they charge the clients. They handle the collections, but you get the chunk of money up front, and the client wins because of a 0% interest rate. So there's something you can do there. If anyone's doing profit first, some people are asking me, how do I change my profit first percentages? Do I decrease them because I'm feeling stressed, or should I increase them because there's an opportunity? And the answer is actually neither. Keep your profit percentages the same, because when you do, your business will start to speak to you. If you can't pay your bills, that's your business now saying, we've got to cut costs, increase margin. So don't change your profit percentages. That will artificially represent what's going on with your business. Instead, keep it static and then adjust your business accordingly.
Like one of the payment terms I did when I owned my web company for 16 years back in 2008 when the economy crashed, we were selling websites and we financed them interest-free for 6 months. And so we took a $6,000 website and got $1,000 a month, and we gave we never got stiffed in the entire time we did that. We never got stiffed. So if you have a product that fits that model, that might be an option you can go to let people get in the door right now and work with them moving forward.
Yeah, and what I love is if you develop a website, you still have the control, right?
Yeah. So that was the deal. You had to host it with us.
Right. It's called a clawback technique. Yep. And if someone fails on their side, you have the ability to pull back what you've offered. So that's a really powerful strategy if you can do that. And then you don't need a financing company. Then you're in total control. Get in a rhythm with, here's a strategic planning move. Just get in a rhythm with whoever your financial advisor is, your bookkeeper, account. Just have a call, 10 minutes once a week to interpret the numbers. Because when we are under stress, we will often make decisions without considering the empirical data behind it. One example, my own business, 3 weeks ago, we saw a sudden drop in income for 1 week. And we're like, uh-oh, it's just hit us. And I wanted to run an investigation of, are we losing clients or whatever? But the first thing I did, because I have a weekly call with my bookkeeper, I said, what's the reason behind this? Well, they ran a historical analysis, and it ends up that week, every week for the past 4 years, that's when we have a dip because we don't have subscriptions during that period. We just don't have them. So I was about to make some drastic decisions on, collection calls and maybe cutting employees because we're having a drop in income when it was actually a historical anomaly. It was just nice to have someone that has no emotional attachment to my business to give me some empirical feedback. Massive opportunity for bold moves here. And when I say bold, I'm putting air quotes around this. Acquisition opportunities are upon us. And it's interesting. I saw these photographers as an example today. There's a lot of photography businesses that have gone into that inaction, startled, shock mode. They're done. And they're like, I can't continue. They're freeing up that client base, right? So now it's not the 10% that were always questioning if they should use as a photographer. Now the entire client base is abandoned. Why not acquire that client base? So reach out to these photographers and say, listen, if you want to sell your business, I'm looking to buy. And the beautiful thing is you don't need to pay cash for it. It's an asset transaction where you acquire the assets of the clients and then you pay them off the performance of the clients. So you don't even have to put money down. You just relieve that from them. So a bold move. Another bold move is marketing upstream. I told you about those clients that are being freed up now, starting to do YouTube videos or whatever kind of educational content you can to move upstream. You don't need to pay for ads per se.
Great stuff.
Couple more. Yeah. And I'm racing through. I know I'm speaking like hyper fast. I got so much to share with you guys. The couple other things I want you to talk about. Oh, critical, easy thing to do. And this will serve you long-term and it'll take 10 minutes. Set up in your accounting system a GL account, general ledger account that says COVID. And the reason you want to do this is any expenses you've incurred or will incur related to COVID, we need to categorize as a COVID expense. Cleaning supplies, remote connections, specialized meetings, emergency meetings, whatever, for the COVID response. Because down the road, if the government releases some kind of emergency relief beyond what they're doing now, and you have to account for it, you can pull out the COVID account and say, here's the expenses I incurred. If there's some kind of insurance reimbursement, here's the expenses I incurred. If you ever need a future loan and they want to evaluate your business financials, you can extract it out and say, here's how COVID affected us. Here's expenses we incurred. If you ever want to get sell your company, sell your business, you have to do what's called a recast. You got to show what your business would be like without strange anomalies like COVID. So you got to be able to extract it out. It takes 10 minutes to set up a general ledger account. You can have your bookkeeper do it if you prefer not to. And you'll be tracking this and it'll serve you long-term. The last thing on the financial front, and again, there's about 30 tips here, but another one I want to share with you is there's a double whammy coming that most people are not prepared for. Taxes today, April 15th, is tax day. It's been delayed till July 15th. Gives us a sense of relief. I encourage you to pay your taxes today anyway. And when I say pay, I'm doing air quotes. I'm not saying send it to the government, but reserve it in a special account. Lock that mother down. Do not spend that money, because on July 15th it'll be due, but there's another payment due June 15th. Literally a month before is our Q1s. I'm sorry, our Q2s are due. So on June 15th, you're going to get a tax bill. Then 30 days later, you're going to get another tax bill. It's not like the government's saying we're going to forgo taxes or defer it forever. They're packing them right into each other. And most people haven't been thinking about the June 15th. So
let me ask you about that. There was an extension on the tax thing. And again, we're not tax advisors here, but it was a tax filing deadline and the extension to pay your 2019 taxes. And in my state, they also extended it for the state tax.
Yep.
But that is not the estimated tax. Did they push the Q1 estimated tax out?
Yeah, my understanding is, they
did.
Yep, it's that nothing is due April 15th.
Okay. So you're going to have two estimated tax payments due a month apart.
Exactly. It's going to be a punch to the face and an uppercut right below the jaw.
Wow.
Be prepared. That's
so, folks. If you haven't read one of Mike's other books called Profit First, which was a foundational book for me to change really everything and sell my business for probably double what it was valued at a year prior. One of the biggest things I learned in that was to create a tax account so that I'm swiping money every week or every 2 weeks or every month, whatever your interval is, into this account and reserving money for taxes. So often small business owners fail to do this. Then we get to the end of the year, we're like, oh, we owe all this tax, on money that I don't have. And it's like, well, where's all the money? And it's just ridiculous, right? And so we don't have the money to pay the tax, and we get behind. A lot of small business owners get behind. And years ago, I got behind big time. And so it's just a clear takeaway on this advice. You need to put any kind of money you possibly can away right now for taxes for next year. That double whammy is going to be killer, because what's going to happen, by the way, is if you don't make those payments, then you're going to get penalized for that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Companies, some businesses are going to get smacked because of this, and because it's just a lack of preparation. But honestly, it comes out of a lack of awareness. The news is changing so quickly; it's hard to be on top of it.
Well, look, at the end of the day, Mike, we went into business to be business owners, probably for more freedom and more money, not to plan on taxes and all these other things that we're not good at.
Yeah.
So
now you know at least.
Yeah.
A lot of these strategies come out of Fix This Next, my book. But again, you can download these at Recession Response. Here's another one that will help. This is called One Step Back. I'm sorry the light's so bright, but One Step Back. And this is how it works, is many of our businesses need to reinvent themselves. And what I call is business as usual in unusual circumstances, meaning our usual competency. What's our core competency? But we may have to repackage our offering. That's the unusual part. And this is a really simple method to do it. I've been doing it with restaurants recently, but you can do it with any business. Right here, it says final offer in this One Step Back. And basically what you do is you ask yourself, what has historically been my final offer? Well, for a restaurant, we bring food and we put it on the table. Okay, the final thing we do is put food on the table. Well, what happens one step back from that? This is one step back. Well, we carry food to the table. Okay, what you're going to realize as we go through this is every step back is actually just another product offering, and the final offer, putting food on the table, is an accumulation of multiple potential product offerings. So if one step back from putting food on the table is delivering food to the table, then the delivery of food or carry out is an obvious solution, and many restaurants are doing this. Some restaurants are doing collaborative things, and that's actually an enhancement, and that's what I want you to pursue. The restaurant down the street teamed up with a food truck. So the food truck is doing deliveries of warm meals to neighborhoods, and the former restaurant is now really a cooking center. It's a kitchen, and they're moving food out. Well, then you continue this process. What happens one step back from the formerly we carried food to the table? What happened one step back? Well, we prepared food in the kitchen. Okay, well, that's a huge opportunity. What are your 5 or 10 most popular meals? Why not write up the recipes and sell the recipes? Why not do a training so you sell the recipe and have a video training of how you do it? Actually, why not run a cooking class where your chef is at the restaurant, and every Tuesday night for the next 10 weeks, we're going to do a cooking class where it's a 2-hour session with the families in the neighborhood that are Zooming in. Now it's entertainment, it's education, it's fun, and they're having their favorite meals. And you
Dude,
can
that's
sell that.
genius. A cooking class with Zoom. That is awesome.
Yeah, right. What happens one step, and you can keep going back. One step prior to that is the procurement of meats and vegetables, the raw inventory. Why not continue to procure that, carve it up, and then sell that? So it's basically a Blue Apron offering now for your local neighborhood. And so you'll see as you can keep on rewinding one step back, and our businesses all inherently have another offering built in there. So that's a technique to deliver new stuff to your clients in a new way, but stay within your core competency. Another thing is ask your customers. A real simple technique is just email your customers or reach out to them in any capacity that you can. Calling would be great too. And simply say, obviously things have changed. We are still here. We want to be of service to you. Is there anything we can do in a new way for you that will cater to you? I am surprised how few businesses have done that. And I'm analyzing that on my own vendors. Basically, no vendors have reached out to say, how can I serve you in a new way? Some have tried to sell me. I own a Chevy. And I liked it until this recent communication. I got this diatribe email. It was probably 15 paragraphs of Chevy saying, here's the Chevy COVID response. We want you to know that our team is here to serve you in better ways than ever before. We've cleaned up our facility. You can come in and get an oil change, and it's only $75. And who knows? You probably need a new car now. We'll drive right into your driveway. I'm like, what? Well, you don't even know what's going on with my life. You're trying to sell me? Gee.
I said to my girlfriend the other day, who's buying a car right now?
Oh, I don't know.
And eventually they've started changing the ads a little bit more to be a little bit more less tone deaf, but that's part of the problem I think we're seeing is that people aren't as aware as they could be with this, with the sales oriented things. And to be frank, there were so many lists I didn't even know I was on because I got all these COVID response emails and I was able to unsubscribe. So we don't want to be sending out everything COVID. I mean, I'm a professional speaker and a referral consultant. If I send out a COVID-19, I'm here for you email. Unsubscribe rate's going to go through the roof. So I would argue avoid the mega sales letters, but I would actually also believe with your clients, and I'll show you why in a few minutes, why we actually want to amplify the frequency of communication, but greatly reduce the size, really bite-sized stuff. And I found United Airlines, who I actually didn't like so much, that United did something super cool. 2 weeks ago, United emailed me and said, hey, you've been a loyal customer. Obviously, no one's flying right now. We want you to know that we've extended the loyalty program another 1.5 years. So you're good. Don't worry about it. I was like, hey, short communication of service. I was like, that's great. A week ago, they emailed me and said, hey, we see you have an upcoming flight you've booked. You probably want to cancel that. But just if you do cancel it, we want you to know that we will refund everything to you immediately. And I was like, hey. Oh, that's nice because I've been fighting for refunds. I have so many. I've figured out the trick, by the way. It's a game of chicken. Oh, it's absolutely a game of chicken that if you cancel your flight, you get the credit. But if you wait for them to cancel it, you get the refund.
There you go.
It's a game of chicken. And you have to. And so this is an interesting thing because here's what's happening out of this center. If you take these companies that are doing this, there was a class action suit filed, I believe it was today, if not yesterday, in Pennsylvania against the airlines for issuing credits and not refunds. And they're getting a bad name. And so just because they're a big behemoth company doesn't mean this can't happen to you. I see this in the vacation rental space, right, with Airbnb. So Airbnb came out and said, we're going to give all you refunds. Well, what most consumers don't know is that there's a big fight behind the scenes, right? And now they're saying, oh, you can stay, medical professionals can stay for free in these Airbnbs, when in fact it's the hosts that are actually offering their place for free, not Airbnb. And so Airbnb is taking a really bad, they're right in the middle and they're getting punched by both sides, like you were talking about earlier. Your communications have to be on point and clear, both with your vendors and your customers. Because you can't offer your vendor services for free to your customers if your vendors aren't on board for that. And that's what they were doing. So there's a lot of that going on. So we got to pay attention.
One simple communication for small business that I've been doing is simply, if you haven't communicated yet, I think it is appropriate to say, we just want you to know we are here. We're open for business. We know it may not be the time for you, but if you need us, we are here. It's a very soft way just to say you're present, but not trying to sell. And I think that's an empowering message. I actually emailed my list and simply said, what's the challenge you're facing now? Because if I can satisfy it or serve it, I'll try to find new ways to service it. And I got amazing feedback, actually feedback I didn't expect. I teach business strategies, but the number one feedback, and this is the first time it ever happened, was I feel lack of confidence now. I don't know what to do. How do I rebuild my confidence? So that was something we didn't expect. And we were building a product around that to really understand what triggers confidence. All right, here's a couple more things. And I want to go into very kind of a little more ethereal, but these are just more practical.
Yeah, and we've got some questions coming in, so we'll get to those too.
Yeah, we'll get the questions too, for sure. This is called the Pareto overlap. Gosh, my light's too bright. But the Pareto overlap looks like this. The Pareto overlap is the 80-20 rule, also available at Recession Response. And there's a unique component to it. It's the 80-20 rule played out in two scenarios. This first one says clients. The second one says offerings. And you'll see I broke it from 20, 60, 20, which is this is the 80, this is the 20. And what this says in the 80-20 rule is that 20% of your clients yield 80% of your revenue and 80% of your clients yield 20%. With your offerings, your products and services, 20% of your offerings yield 80% of the profitability and 80% of the offering yields only 20% of the profitability. So what this matrix shows us is that the best clients who spend the most money with you, who are buying the best things, that is your critical component of your business. It says the word protect here. You must do everything you can to cater to these clients, to protect that relationship. Those are the ones you actively communicate with. Those are the ones when the phone rings, they're the ones that get answered. And if you're on with someone else and you see that phone ringing, you jump to it. You must over cater to this market to protect it. It's the heart of your organization. Now, if I go down here, these are the horrible clients, right? They don't pay you well. They're never happy. They threaten to go on Yelp and complain about you. And they're buying stuff that doesn't make money. This low set of clients, a friend of mine gave it a term. He calls them poison. These clients are a very big emotional cost and you're losing money on them. Jettison these clients in this market. If you keep swallowing poison in a market like this, it's not sustainable. So throw them out. Let your competition pick up those guys. Then there's two more scenarios. Best clients, wonderful people, but they're buying non-profitable products and offerings. This is an education about the offering. Reach out to these clients and say, we so much appreciate your historical business with us. We also want to advise you of other things we're doing that may help you and try to move them up. So it's an education on the offering. This other scenario, you have offerings that make you a lot of money being purchased by clients that are a pain in the ass. Well, that's an education about the relationship. This is a very tough call. And in a healthy market, I actually suggest that you jettison those clients too, because it's very hard to change people. But in this market, I suggest you go for the change. Call these clients and say, listen, we want to continue to do business with you. We appreciate that you want to do business with us, but the behavior, the manner of doing business is not working. So you have to behave like so-and-so, you have to pay on time, and you try to move these clients up. If they're unwilling to move up, you jettison them because they do represent poison. If they're difficult for you, they're going to be difficult for other people. Okay. Now I want to go into a couple things, and I got a couple other kind of strategies, but I want to give you a little big picture thing, because a common question I'm getting, and I address this in Fix This Next, is why we stay stuck in the struggle. And I want to do a little demonstrative. If you have a piece of paper, you can do it right now on a piece of paper in front of you. And it's 3 simple steps, but this demonstrates, it's a great illustration of why business owners stay stuck in this environment. What you do is in the middle of the piece of paper, write the letter A and put a circle around it. What A represents is point A. That's where our business is right now. And for the vast majority of us, it's crisis or challenge. Step 2, draw an arrow any direction you choose, a short distance from A out. So that's how we get out of challenge. Whatever arrow you drew, whatever direction, is an escape from A. And this is how many business owners are responding to crisis. What will get me out of crisis? But now I want you to draw another arrow in any other direction you choose away from A. And that second arrow represents a second choice. And do like two or three more, however any you want, but draw arrows in different directions. And what this points to is that any decision we make in this moment that gets out of crisis will get us out of crisis. But the final and third step, I want you to draw the letter B in the bottom left corner and put a circle around it of that piece of paper. And without seeing your paper, I strongly presume very few arrows are pointing to B. And perhaps for some of us, no arrows are pointing to B. What B represents is the vital need, the specific thing your business needs from you to survive this crisis. But without knowing where we have to go, we simply escape crisis. Many people, if you drew the arrow away from the A, some of you may have even drawn the arrow in the opposite direction of B, like totally going away from where you need to be. And that's why most businesses stay stuck in crisis. They simply get into a new A. And so if you have the experience where, I put out a fire today, and then tomorrow you put out another fire, and the next day you're putting out another fire, you are in the survival trap. You're moving from A to new A to new A and just bouncing around. If you're trying to hustle and grind your business forward and you've been doing it for months or years in many cases, you're clearly stuck in the survival trap. So the solution is we need to know B. Of course, the question is, how do you find B? So that's what I wanted to show you. And by the way, here's my illustration of the survival trap if you just want like a picture. Sometimes, by the way, by just getting out of crisis, you make the right decision. But when we have clarity on B, then every decision we want to make gets us out of crisis and moves us toward where our business needs to go. Here's the
if we have arrows that we drew toward B before B existed, does it mean that we're on track? Because
I all toward B.
Well, I had the first one there over to the right, and then the other ones kind of went down, and then you said put it in the bottom left corner.
Yeah.
So does that mean I'm constantly looking for the right solution or not being stuck? What does that mean?
That means nothing. It just means that you guessed well. It means absolutely nothing. That's great. You did well at the magic trick, but that's about it. No, this is, that's just an illustration. You were lucky. And, it does happen. Some business owners, and I've experienced it, just make enough crisis management that they end up being a B. I sold my second company to a Fortune 500, not because I had great skill set or was a great entrepreneur. In fact, I'd argue in retrospect, I realized I was a pretty bad entrepreneur. But I was in the right place at the right time. I made a few decisions. I got into computer crime investigation right at 2000. The Enron trial broke. I investigated the Enron trial, right place, right time, and my business exploded. I made hundreds of wrong decisions, but those two right decisions got me very close to B and got acquired. But in retrospect, it was dumb luck. So if we know where B is, then we can be very deliberate at it. And this is the way to find your B. I call it the business hierarchy of needs. It's also at recession response. This stuff I'm telling you, by the way, it's all in Fix This Next, my book. So there's 5 levels. This is based upon Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Real quick primer on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Studies human behavior and finds that all humans, all of us, have a base level need called physiological needs. We need to breathe air, drink water, eat food for our base survival. Above that, we have needs for shelter, protection from harm, protection from the elements. It goes all the way up to self-actualization, living life's purpose. But Maslow argued if at any time a base level need is not satisfied, we will revert to it biologically and address it. So if I'm talking right now, I start choking on some food I ate, now my air passageway is blocked, I will do everything to dislodge it. I will automatically revert to the base level of physiological needs, biologically. Well, the business hierarchy of needs is the hierarchy that our businesses need. It's the survival of our business. But there's one significant difference between Maslow's hierarchy and this hierarchy, in that Maslow's hierarchy, we are biologically wired. In this hierarchy, we're not. So here's the level of needs. The first level, every business needs sales. Sales is the creation of cash. It's the oxygen for an organization. If you've no sales, if sales was dried up 100%, your business is suffocating. We must immediately get sales. And we've talked about techniques. How do you repackage your offering? By doing the one-step back method. Maybe you can query your clients by asking, where are you challenged or what do you need now? So we talked about strategies there. The next level up is profit. Profit is the creation of stability for an organization. This is where we have a runway of cash to sustain the business and to support a lifestyle of comfort for ourselves ultimately. And we talked about strategies there. Managing that cash inflow and outflow, right? Can you renegotiate terms? Can you reduce the outflow of cash while maximizing the inflow, offering new collection methods and so forth? Many businesses right now are reverting to trying to get more sales when they actually have a profit problem. And the reason that they're doing that is because they're trusting their gut. That's the significant difference between the business hierarchy of needs and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we're biologically wired into ourselves. So Matt, if you and I are walking down a dark alley and we get this sense that we're going to, someone's going to hurt us, we should turn around because someone is going to hurt us. It's our senses triggering that. But in our business, we trust our instinct and gut when we're not biologically wired into our business. We need to back it with empirical queries or data, basically. And so many people right now are saying, we need to sell our way out of this. Sales will cure everything. And I saw one business cut prices on their core product by 50%. Nothing's changed on the product. They've cut prices by 50%, and their margins were 10%, which means now they're losing 40% in every transaction. By doing that, they started a downward spiral faster. So reverting to our gut instinct, we actually have to trust empirical data. And here's how you do it. You look at the sales level and you ask always two questions. Do I have any sales? And then do I have adequate sales to support the next level above it? So if you have any sales, you have some sales, then we ask that next question. Do I have adequate sales to support profit? If you have adequate sales to support some degree of profit, then we ask the profit question. Do we have any profit? If not, we have a profit problem. Do we have adequate profit to support the next level, which is called order or efficiency? If so, we move up to order and say, do we have any efficiency? If no, we got to start addressing efficiencies. If yes, is it adequate at least to support impact? So that's how you move up the chart. The 5 levels are this. Sales is the creation of cash. Next level is profit, which is the creation of stability for an organization. Order is the creation of efficiency. No dependency on the owner. You don't have to carry the business on your back. Impact is the creation of transformation. It's where you're changing the lives of the people that you serve beyond the commodity itself. And legacy is the creation of permanence, where the business is designed to run into perpetuity. Sadly, I see 2 things happening in this crisis. I see people reverting to sales, like I just shared, cutting prices, doing whatever just to get some money in, but it's actually costing them because it's not profitable sales. The second challenge I see is people jumping up to impact and saying, I got to save the world. Everyone needs me. I'm going to give myself away. I'm going to do whatever it takes to be of service to them. And they're ignoring sales, profit, and efficiency. And the business is being crippled. I see businesses that are on the brink of going under because they're giving and giving till it hurts. It's hurt so bad now, they're out of business. So the decree here is you are responsible. You're absolutely responsible to bring in sales and profitable sales and order, because the only way for you to sustain is if you, says the word get here, if you get sales, get profit, get order, and then you can give of impact and legacy. So we have to focus on these levels. So that's the business market needs.
You bring up that sales question, and we had a question that was submitted in advance of the session tonight, which gives me a great transition to just ask this question.
Yeah.
Which is, how do I grow a business that cannot be expanded effectively through employees or independent contractors? That was submitted by Dewey Craven.
Yeah, so it can't be. So then the question
He's
is,
saying he cannot expand it by hiring employees. He's saying expand it effectively through employees or independent contractors.
Yes, yeah, so
meaning it sounds like he's the business.
How do you expand it effectively? What's the alternative? So I'll give you a chart. I have a chart for everything. I didn't know that question was coming, but there's a thing called the rapid growth analysis.
Oh, there you go.
And so he's talking about an operations channel. The operations channel. And so there's 5 channels for every business, typically marketing, sales, the product offerings, the service offerings, and the operations of the business. And what we do is we ask ourselves 2 simple questions. What is working in that channel and what is not working? So what I'm hearing in operations, what's not working is hiring more employees is not working. So my question simply is, well, what is working for operations? Is it maybe product innovation? Is it word of mouth marketing?
Process.
Yeah, it's a process. So you write down what is working, what isn't working. What isn't working, you diminish it. Meaning, if hiring employees isn't adding to the benefit of the business, obviously stop hiring employees. But if the word of mouth is working, how do we amplify word of mouth? How do we get more people talking about it? So you just categorize what is working and what isn't working in your business, amplify what is, you delete what's not. And I know this sounds ridiculously simple, but it's ridiculously effective. So that's why I had that question back.
That's
okay.
Powerful.
I got more for you guys. I actually do want to have one ask though, if I may, Matt.
What's that?
Just about Fix This Next.
Yeah.
So I want to invite anyone who's interested, and I have a selfish reason, but also a very meaningful reason I'm asking this, is if you're interested in Fix This Next, it's available today. I would be honored if you'd purchase it right now, actually, as we're doing this webinar. And if you do, just post in the chat, because I want to personally thank you, and I want to share something with you too.
I know Frank bought one before he got on.
Nice, Frank. Thank you. But here's why. The most affordable, effective thing I can do to serve people in crisis is this book. I've committed 5 years to researching this, never expecting this problem. This book is the solution. I am convinced of it. It is my best life's work, even better than like Profit First, if you've heard of that book, and Clockwork. So I know it'll serve you. That's my promise. I do have a selfish reason for asking why I want to ask you to do this now on Amazon. Is that the Amazon engine, how it works is if it sees surge purchasing, meaning a group of people buy simultaneously, it starts marketing to other entrepreneurs. And selfishly, I want other entrepreneurs to discover this, because you are the backbone of our economy. The world needs your success more than ever. And the irony is you've been punched in the face by the world. You have a bloody nose and a black eye, and the world is begging you at the same time saying, please save me. For the economy to rebound, it's us. And it's crazy because we're the ones who are crippled, but we need a way out. And I want more and more entrepreneurs to discover this book because I know this is the best of me to support that. So if you order it, and Audible helps for sure. The hardcover helps even more, but if you prefer Audible, please do that. If you decide to do it right now, Don, I see you posting right there. Thank you very much. It really
folks,
means
he's a small business. Buy all 3 copies. Come on, get the ebook, get the hard copy.
I'd be honored. That would be a great service to me and great service in getting the word out. And I promise you, it will serve you. It is truly my best work. Okay. And if you do, again, post it in the chat because I wanted to thank you personally. Next thing I want to share with you is thank you, Corey. Appreciate it. Here's the borrower lender matrix, a real interesting dynamic that happens in the behavior around money that I think will help you. And here's what on this side, this vertical is the obligation, the sense of obligation. On this side is time. And this is how it works. When in the beginning of time, meaning when you give someone money, a borrower, if you gave me money in the very beginning, I have a heightened sense of obligation as the borrower, and you have a low sense of obligation. So how this plays out in this example is, say, Matt, I say to you, hey man, can I borrow $100? And you give it to me. I'm the borrower, you're the lender. In the moment, I'm like, dude, you hooked me up, you saved me, thanks for the $100. I need this for something I gotta do. I appreciate it. You, the lender, low sense of obligation. Hey, don't worry about how I can help you out. Pay me back when you can. In the next few weeks will be great. And I'm like, no problem. Then time progresses. Over time, me as the borrower, my sense of obligation decreases. I'm like, $100, who really cares? Not a big deal. I got other issues going on. And then a month or two into it, so I'm like, I forgot it even existed. Now the reverse is for the lender. The lender's like, hey, you're supposed to be paying me back in a couple of weeks. What happened? Mike, what's going on? Your sense of obligation increases. Well, the risk we run is right here at the crossover. And David, thank you. Cindy, thank you. Berta, thank you very much. What happens here at the crossover is the danger zone, because that is when the lender's obligation is higher and the borrower's lower, and you can forget it. So what you need to do is push people back. If you lend money, you got to push them back to the side. And I'll tell you, if you offer terms, if you do the $6,000, but we're going to break into $1,000 installments over 6 months, you are a lender. So if you're giving any form of terms, you are lending people money. You're acting like a bank. And here's an example of how to work this. I call it, what can you afford? I had a client's client who wasn't paying my client, if that makes sense. I had a client who was owed $25,000 and their client was not paying it. They tried to collect it for about a year and it was not happening. Well, I went in and they were going to forgive the debt and to say, we're going to write it off. What I did was I went in and we tried the what can you afford technique. They called their client and said, hey, I know you can't pay the $25,000, but if we set you up on a weekly installment, what could you afford weekly? And the reason you may want to do this weekly is you're compressing time again. It's going to be a regular reminder. And that client said, well, we don't know. And then they responded and said, well, can you afford a penny? And, it's kind of a joke, but he said, well, of course. And we said, well, can you afford $10? Yes. And we asked a few times. We found out it was $250 a week would not impede them. We said, great. That's going to be the new terms. Just pay us $250 a week. Well, what happens in that is it slides back right here to the heightened sense of obligation. The borrower now is paying recurringly frequently. And the lender, now you have a regular stream of communication. Every week you get that payment, say, hey, got the payment. Thanks for doing this. It took us only a year and we collected all $25,000 because when the client had extra money, they just sent it to us because we had a heightened sense of obligation. So realize this matrix exists, and it doesn't exist only for money. As time goes on, if you're not communicating with your client and just telling me you're out there, kind of like the United situation where they just reached out, United is on the top of my mind again because they brought the time frame back with bite-sized actionable pieces.
Well, and that's a great nugget right there is when you go weekly, you're in their inbox, you're in their receipt box all week long. Check out all these people ordering this book. Frank ordered another 5.
Gary, Joyce, Jody, Steven.
Slide that up. Frank ordered another 5.
Frank, that's a big, thank you very much.
People ordering Audibles.
Jen, thank you. and you'll love the
Yes,
Audible.
Margie, it's Fix This Next. Yes.
I
Or Fix
read
This.
the Audible myself, and I did
Yeah.
a new format where if you have the hardcover, it works in synchronicity with the hardcover. It's not Whisper Sync; it's my own version. It's pretty
Oh,
cool.
your own version. I listened to your own versions of Audible. I actually love
this one's my best one.
They go off kilter.
Yeah,
So listen,
cool.
I got
Thank you guys.
do you have a little bit of extra time? Because we're 4 minutes to the top of the hour, and
Yeah, let's answer some questions. I got about 10
some
more
questions
minutes
here. Okay. So listen, folks, if you have to get off at the top of the hour, there will be a recording. We'll send it out via email to the registered email address for the webinar. Let me get to some of these questions here. From Patrick, what technology, hardware, and software do you recommend for business owners to be capable and continue to operate remotely?
Well, I mean, it depends on the kind of work you're doing. What we do typically for remotely is the realization that the vast majority of the stuff we're doing, we have 12 employees, everyone's remote now, is the vast majority is internet based. So I don't need a powerful system as long as I can surf the net. I'll tell you the things you do need. You do need a light. So let me show you. Here, see, get a camera.
A light that doesn't work well with paper.
There's a light. It's called a key light. Yeah, it's a little bit bright, but get a light to light your face. Get a camera like that. And we have an arm just so I can adjust it around, but a good camera and great audio. We use a thing called Audio Techna. This microphone was $75 or something, but it has a built-in compressor and it just plugs in USB. No technical knowledge needed, and it just worked. The Logitech I use a 930C, and it's high def and wide, and it even gives you the ability to zoom in and zoom out while you're using it, which other cameras don't. I'll also activate that so you can see it. But you can change the settings, which is powerful based upon, see there I'm zooming in, zooming out, and you can change the colors. I can darken it, brighten it, whatever I want. And the power of this is based upon different settings. You can adjust it. Communication, this is the new standard communication. Our team, we had a team meeting today, all 12 of us, and we were talking about the COVID virus and the circumstances how it's affecting business. And one of our team members met with an expert virtually yesterday and extracted that this is likely going for the rest of 2020. Even sporting events, there's likely going to be, if there's any sporting events, there's going to be no gatherings. They were trending the influenza of 1913 or whatever compared to now and how it affects a community. So we're likely going to be doing this for a while. So invest in setting up good cameras.
So that's the hardware. Any specific software you would recommend? Obviously, Zoom is a great tool, but what other small business software do you recommend? I mean, I believe in a CRM system to make sure you stay in touch with people.
Yeah, we use Zoho for our CRM. We use Monday for project management, Monday.com for our team. We use Google Docs. Google Docs is shockingly powerful, and Gmail. The one thing that many people don't use that I really recommend is a thing called BombBomb.
Yeah, I use that. Yeah.
Very powerful. It is a way to use video email, and it brings back a degree of tactile experience. Is a great way to engage with your customers.
So I'm going to put a link in the chat.
Thanks, Todd.
Which is my, I'm just going to tell you now, it's my affiliate link for BombBomb. I'm a partner with them. I believe in it. I sent over 800 emails in the last year. And I know Don Corey uses it too. He's a rock star at it. So next question from Corey. A lot of business owners are in evaluation mode. What do I do? Where do I go? How do I do it? Etc. Any insight on helping an individual who normally doesn't think about these things to try and get them on the right track emotionally during the crisis? A lot of these business owners are not thinking outside the box, and some may just not have enough fight in the tiger. Yeah.
So we're in evaluation mode, which is right here, and some people are freezing up. The best way to do is actually get outside your industry. So I found there's very circuitous conversations in any industry. As an author speaker like Matt, I'm talking with other speakers, and every speaker's like, we're screwed, and it becomes this pity party. And I don't mean that negatively, but that's truly what it becomes, and there's no innovative thinking. I am talking with all different industries and getting insights. I talk with wedding planners, and I got the amazing idea of how to replace events. So I'm talking to wedding planners, and what are you doing? And one wedding planner is like, oh, you can still celebrate, you just can't do it in person anymore. So we've done these custom boxes that we're mailing out for a wedding, and it has different stages in it. So it says, at the 10-minute mark, and however they marked it, they're doing a virtual service over Zoom, and then they're going to say open box number 1, and everyone gets to celebrate their champagne, all these different things. So I was like, oh my gosh, we're doing a live event. That's how I'm doing my live event. So we enacted that right away. Meet with people outside your industry and talk with them. There's another thing called the positive process. It's available at recessionresponse.com. Just click on that It's pretty self-explanatory. It's a way to take negative thoughts, which is normal. So accept that it's normal and start spinning it into opportunity.
Okay. No, another question here. You mentioned healthy business equals sales, profit, and order. Pricing services is hard for some business owners, or their comfort with it.
Yeah.
Any recommendations to get over this hump? Some say it's time, some say it's value. I don't think it's either. What's your thoughts?
It's obligation, and change the word from dollars to appreciation points, and it really changes my perspective. So when I charge someone, say, $500 for something, it feels like a big chunk of money. When I say to get this is 500 appreciation points, now I see that the more they're investing, the more they're vested in a successful outcome. So realize that the more money people put in something, the more they value it. And the less money they pay, the less they value it. If I put a diamond on the table right now and said, that's $5, you're going to say, oh, it's a cheap cubic zirconia. If I put a diamond down the table and I say, that's $5,000, please be careful with it. You're like, oh, that's a diamond. We judge the value of something based upon the dollar price point. So if you have a low price point, you are seen as cheap and a knockoff. If you have a higher price point, your instant perception is there's value. Now you got to argue the value, but that's your instant starting point. So that's one part. The other part is I want to tell you, your clients want you to be profitable. They're thirsty for it. Now they're never going to say, hey, could you double the prices on me? Could you rip me off a little bit? Of course not. Here's what they will say. When you service me or provide a product, I want your undivided attention. I want to make sure that I'm the most important client to you. I don't want you distracted by anything else. I surely don't want you worrying about making business down here while you're not paying attention to me. Care for me and cater to me. And the only way you can care for or cater to a customer is if you're not worrying about money. You have to be profitable, because if you're distracted about survival, the customer's screwed. So your customers are dying for you to be profitable. They'll never use those words, but they want your full attention. That's how you need to position, because that's the honest truth.
So there's a lot of talk right now in a lot of places between a lot of business owners about whether or not they should be selling right now. How do we position this in a way? I mean, I think you did a good job with your book as a good example. I mean, look, your book was predetermined on its launch date. You're not going to push that book out. You know, you've been working 5 years on that, and COVID rears its ugly head, and you still have a book going to market that obviously can be of service to people. And to be perfectly frank, it's a low price point. It's $20, $30, right?
Right.
It's not $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 implementation plans, processes, things like that. If you have a service like that, how do you position it in a way that it, allows you to still call on people without taking inbound sales to try and get business moving again? And you're not calling on a list. You're not, you're just basically, we'll just call it cold calling. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. So what you do is you ask your customers, can we serve you in a new way? First of all, some customers will see your solution as life-saving. Think about a heart surgeon. Do you think heart surgeons right now are saying, 50% off sale, come on by, I need the business? No. And would you go to that guy or girl? No. When your life is on the line, you will seek that person out regardless of the fee, because your life depends on it. Certain business owners see the service that you provide, what you offer, saves the life of that business. Now, the vast majority of people, thank God, are not having heart attacks. The vast majority of people go to the general practitioner, but a small portion have their life on the line. That's that 20% of clients I told you about. So you have an obligation to retain that price because they see you as valuable. And if you cut the price, now it's the heart surgeon doing the 50% off thing. It makes no sense. The second thing is those other customers. I think that's who we're talking about. Those other customers, we ask them, how can we serve you now? What's the new way to position it? And you never just cut price and continue to deliver the same value, because now you're killing yourself. So now you diminish your offering. You say, well, I can strip this out and strip that out and get the price lower. You're going to get less benefit, but I can strip it down. So that's where we do this one step back technique, and we start stripping out pieces, and that's the way to position it. But I'll tell you this, you have an effing obligation to sell in this market. I'm not saying to take advantage of people. I'm saying you have an obligation to sell because other people are taking advantage of people. There's 40, 50 of us on this call right now. There is 40 or 50,000 people that are sadly, unscrupulous and trying to sell into this market opportunistically. They see there's an opportunity to take advantage of your customer. And I know, because you're here trying to learn, that you actually give a shit. You care about your customer. And the fact that you do, damn it, you have an obligation to sell, because it's the only way to defend off the people that are unscrupulous. So
I
sell.
agree. There are 40 or 50 people. We offer this as a free webinar. We are sending invoices to every one of you. There's a ton of value here.
Well, that's opportunistic, because you didn't tell them in advance.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm preaching. Thanks, Jody, for giving me an amen, because I started preaching. And
all right, listen, so we've gone over time, and I want to be respectful of both our attendees' time, of AmSpirit and Frank Agan's time, and also of Mike's time. I greatly appreciate it, Mike. You've been a great friend for a long time.
Likewise.
I love engaging with you. I love reading your books. I love buying them and giving them as gifts to other people. That's a fun thing to do. That's something I wrote about in my book that people should do more of, is buy entrepreneurs' books and share the thought leadership with your business colleagues, because it matters to them. If you find value in a book like this, then buy some extra copies. Mike's not going to get rich off of being an author. If you don't know anything about that, it's not the primary means by which people make money. And so, but it is the primary means by which other people improve their own business.
Totally. You know what I love about business books is a well-prepared business book is honestly the entire knowledge set and soul of that person. It is the notes, the cliff notes to their brain. Yeah. And I hope that's what people find in the books I do. And just thank you for extracting that. It's the best value I can give to anybody, is simply my book.
Great. So everybody, you've had a chance to buy the book, and it's coming out real soon.
April 28th. Yeah,
April
everyone's
28th. So there's a bunch of people in here that are like, oh, that's such a tease. I got to wait for it now. But they got it.
But Amazon sometimes does a pre-release, and actually have control over
where can people find you online and your website and all of that stuff?
So 2 things you can do. FixThisNext.com. I set up a free eval. We weren't even going to do this for free, and we weren't going to do it for another few months until the book came out, but COVID changed things. So you can go to FixThisNext.com, click on take the free eval, and evaluate your business. And it'll pinpoint in the next 5 minutes what you should do. And no download or anything, just take the evaluation. That's at FixThisNext.com. The other thing is, if you want to get my other work, or I have tons of available free resources at Mike Motorbike. Now, my name is Mike Michalowicz. No one can spell that, but my nickname in high school is Mike Motorbike. And that's easier to remember because it rhymes. And as an aside, I've never driven a motorcycle, but you can go to mikemotorbike.com, and there's a lot of free resources there for you. Yeah. And, if you learn a little bit about Mike, you'll be able to find his mailing address and send him some Twizzlers, because he's a Twizzler fan. Yeah, you did. Yeah, no. So it's my addiction, by the way. Yeah. So listen, I want to thank everybody for coming on. My name is Matt Ward. My company is Breakthrough Champion, and I help people get more referrals. And as I always say, at the end of every video, at the end of every blog, and at the end of every keynote, don't forget to live happy, smile a lot, and high five everyone around you. Take care, everybody. Thanks for coming on.